Hello, everyone, and welcome to my first draft video of the 2023 offseason. If you followed me in the 2022 offseason, you know that I did top 5 position rankings at each position and entirely too many mock drafts. And I'm ready to get that process kicked off and start looking to the 2023 NFL draft. But before I start talking about players from the 2023 draft, I want to look back at some of my takes from the 2022 draft. And so in this video, I'm going to talk about the 7 players that I was most right about in last year's draft. Now, this isn't necessarily all of the best players. It's the players that maybe I was most far off from consensus or guys that I ended up being right on. And so without any further ado, let's dive in to number 7. The number 7 player that I was right about in the 2022 NFL draft was cornerback Ahmad Sauce Gardner. Yes, I know Sauce Gardner was highly touted as a prospect. He ended up being selected number 4 overall by the New York Jets, and that was actually one spot above where he was on my big board. I had him at number 5 on my big board. He was my CB1. In my initial rankings, I had Derek Stingley as CB1, but by the time we made it to the draft, I had flipped those. He was 1, Stingley was 2, and there's no comparison after their rookie seasons. Sauce Gardner made first team All-Pro this season. He allowed just 1 touchdown all season while intercepting 2 passes, recording 14 pass breakups, and generating negative 28.8 EPA when targeted, which was the second best among all corners, not just rookie corners. He was second among all rookie corners in missed tackle percentage at 7.6%. So it's not just in coverage, but he can rally and tackle if you manage to catch the ball on him. He was targeted 74 times this season and allowed only 34 receptions. On 642 coverage snaps, he only gave up 361 yards receiving. He was named AP Defensive Rookie of the Year, deservedly so. He made the Pro Bowl. He was first team All-Pro, as I mentioned. He is the number 7 person that I was most right about in the 2022 NFL Draft. Now let's move on to number 6. The number 6 person that I was right about in the NFL Draft in 2022 was edge rusher Kayvon Thibodeaux. He was selected number 5 by the New York Giants. He was actually the number 2 player on my big board. I had him as edge number 1, above Travon Walker by quite a bit, above Aiden Hutchinson by a little bit. He was my tier 1 edge rusher. And although he dealt with some injuries in his rookie season, I thought he showed a lot of potential down the stretch. He ends up playing in 14 games as a rookie. He logged 4 sacks and 45 pressures in those 14 games. His 11.1% QB pressure rate was the top pressure rate among rookie edge rushers who had at least 500 snaps in the season. ESPN created a metric called created stats, and so it charts. It awarded the stat to the person who got to the quarterback first. Maybe you forced him up off of his spot into someone else. You didn't get credit. He was the only rookie in the top 16 of that metric with 9.5 created sacks. Kayvon Thibodeaux put out a lot of good tape in his rookie season, and I can't wait to see what he's going to do moving forward. For my number 5 player that I was most right about, we're going to get out of the first round entirely and talk about a guy whose name you still might not know. It's interior defensive lineman Travis Jones. Travis Jones was the number 52 player on my big board. He was my 6th rated interior defensive lineman. He ended up going number 76 overall to the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens, they just tend to draft guys that I like, as we'll see later in this video. He's not much of a pass rusher. He's more of a defensive tackle, a run stuffer. He had 162 pass rushing snaps as a rookie, and he had 5 pressures and 1 sack. So not great numbers, but that's not what he's there for. What he's there for is to stop the run. And against the run, he had 24 tackles, 19 run stops, which is a stop that constitutes a failed play for the offense. It doesn't count towards offensive success rate. And those 19 run stops ranked 2nd among rookie defensive tackles. He started slow to the year, as you might expect a 3rd round pick to do, but he showed potential down the stretch, helping to anchor the middle of that Ravens running defense. And for that reason, Travis Jones is my number 5 player I was most right about in the draft. At number 4, we're going to keep it in Baltimore with center Tyler Linderbaum. Tyler Linderbaum was the 10th player on my big board. He was my interior offensive lineman number 1 in the draft, and he was selected with the 25th pick by the Baltimore Ravens. Now, as a pass blocker, he was a little bit up and down. He allowed 29 pressures. He allowed 3 sacks. It's a little high, but where he really excelled is as a run blocker, which makes perfect sense when you think about plugging him into a Ravens offense that, let's be honest, they don't draft receivers. They don't have good receivers. They're going to run the football. And when you look at his run blocking ability, he had a run blocking grade of 84.2 from PFF, which was 4th among all centers in the NFL. His 74.7 overall grade ranked 6th among centers. So Tyler Linderbaum, a versatile piece in the middle of their offensive linemen. He's athletic. They're going to be able to use him to do a lot of things moving forward. The Ravens got a good one in Tyler Linderbaum. My number 3 player that I was most right about in the 2022 NFL draft, we're going to keep it on the offensive line and talk about interior offensive lineman Dylan Parham out of Memphis. I loved Dylan Parham in the process. He was ranked number 54 on my big board. He was my 4th ranked interior offensive lineman, and he went number 90 overall to the Las Vegas Raiders. One of the things I loved about Parham was just his versatility. I'd mock drafted him to so many different teams last offseason as just a project, a developmental guy on the interior of your line. And he showed that off as a rookie. He played snaps at center, 137. He played 110 snaps at right guard before he settled in at left guard for 789 snaps. In all those snaps, he logged the 2nd highest rookie offensive guard overall grade from PFF. Now, he did allow 6 sacks, and some of that is by virtue of not having a set position for so long and moving around. But I truly believe he showed his value as a versatile piece that can play anywhere on the interior offensive line. And for a late 3rd round pick, it was a steal by the Raiders to get Dylan Parham. For the number 2 player on my list, we're going to go all the way to day 3 of the draft and talk about cornerback Tariq Woolen. Tariq Woolen was selected at number 153 overall by the Seattle Seahawks, 1 pick ahead of my Philadelphia Eagles. And Woolen was the number 55 player on my big board, so he was selected almost 100 slots past where I had him. I had him listed as CB8 in the draft. Tariq Woolen had a unique athletic profile, a 10.0 relative athletic score, literally the most athletic cornerback ever to test at the combine. And you can see it when you turn on his film. There's a little bit of rawness in his game, but the athleticism, the explosiveness, it paid dividends for Seattle. He had 6 interceptions and 16 passes defensed this season. He allowed just a 49.8 passer rating when targeted, which was the lowest of all corners with at least 200 coverage snaps. Now, he has things he needs to clean up. He had 8 penalties this year. He's a little grabby at the top of route trees and, things to be expected from a day 3 pick. He also is a pretty poor tackler. He had an 18.7% missed tackle rate, but he was named to the Pro Bowl as a day 3 pick as a rookie. Phenomenal value for the Seahawks. Tariq Woolen is the number 2 player I was most right about. Without further ado, the number 1 player on this list, the guy who I was more right about than anyone else in the draft, it's wide receiver George Pickens. George Pickens was number 26 on my big board. That was wide receiver 5 for me. He fell all the way to the 52nd pick, where he was selected by the Pittsburgh Steelers to pair with rookie quarterback Kenny Pickett. So we have that Pickett to Pickens connection, and we saw it strong over the second half of the season. George Pickens is a true outside wide receiver. He took 86.6% of his snaps from a wide alignment. He reeled in 19 contested catches. That's the highest in this class, and it's 3rd among all NFL wide receivers behind only DK Metcalf and Justin Jefferson, both of whom had a lower contested catch percentage than George Pickens. He is the real deal. He creates separation. He attacks at the catch point, and he was a security blanket for Kenny Pickett early in his rookie season. He ended his year with 52 receptions for 801 yards. That's 15.4 yards per catch. He had 4 touchdowns. He also added 20 rushing yards and a rushing touchdowns. That Pickett to Pickens connection is going to be strong in Pittsburgh. That is a tongue twister for a long time. And for that reason, George Pickens is the guy that I hang my hat on as being the most right about in the 2022 NFL Draft. If you guys enjoyed this video, please do me a favor and click that subscribe button here on YouTube. You get all kinds of draft content that I'm going to be pumping out your way. Chalk Talk, my podcast live streams to YouTube. You can also check it out on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. It'll be going out there all off season long. It covers the entire NFL, getting you ready for the draft, for training camp, and all the storylines in and through the entire season. You can also follow me on Twitter at @halfandhalf_TPL, where I tweet out all kinds of game clips, takes, all the stuff. So be sure you're following me in all the places, and I'll see you guys next time.